Hey guys, just quickly, I wanna share with you a footage that I found following my presentation on laws of perspective, where I told you, if you have listened to it or watched it, where I told you that we should figure out and analyze, we should analyze footage from heights above 50 kilometers. And this was recommended to me on YouTube. There was a video that people did, private people or some kind of company that is not NASA, and they shot a rocket into the sky and they attached a GoPro to it, which is a wide angle lens camera. That's what you have to pay attention to, also be aware of. But they shot it into the sky and it had a height of 90 kilometers, and that's already better than any airplane footage, any military airplane footage, because these airplanes just fly into the sky like, what do we say, like 20 to 30 kilometers, but it's not enough to make any conclusions, major conclusions. But this is not meant to be any kind of evidence for flat earth or for ball earth, because I told you they used a GoPro. That means there is a wide angle lens camera involved. That means distant lines are being curved. So if you have a horizon line, then these lines will be curved due to the wide angle lens. And wide angle means the camera can cover angles from between 80 degrees to up to 140 degrees or 120 degrees. And since I don't have the data, I cannot make complete calculations on that. I do not have the exact data on the angle of the camera. They did not give this, which would have been interesting. But you see, when you analyze this footage and you go from bottom to the top, like the rocket increases its height, you realize that already at the bottom, like at heights where there is no curvature at all, these lines are already curving because of wide angle lens. And one thing that they did is put the camera at a 90-degree angle, and they say it was because of some aerodynamics or whatever, some build-up construction reason. And to me that's just kind of an excuse, because now the camera footage is basically useless, because like you have a frame of 16:9 ratio, right? But they turned it 90 degrees, so you can already see the fallacy in this. So later, the rocket, when it's gained a lot of height, is actually wobbling around, you know, it's not straight, perfectly straight. Unfortunately, it's wobbling, and then eventually the camera is also turning it's 90 degrees back to normal position, and you will see a wide range of the Earth. But you have to be aware of the fact that they are using a wide angle lens camera, so you cannot really make conclusions, neither flat Earth nor ball Earth conclusions. That's what I want to tell everybody. You can analyze this footage for yourself if you want, and the link is in the description if you want to look at it. One thing I want to mention here, you can get a feeling of how the wide angle lens affects the image. When you, for example, put the video at slow speed, then you can follow the horizon line clearly. Once the horizon line comes into the image from the bottom, then at the bottom the line is perfectly straight, but the further it goes upwards and the further the camera is actually pointing downwards, into the earth, but the horizon line is moving upwards in the image frame, then the curve gets exaggerated slightly. So just to give you some kind of feeling of how this works, how the lens actually affects the image. Okay. So you can't really say that there is a curve or you're seeing a curve because you do not really have the correct camera. They did not really use the correct camera, and then you must question, why don't they just use a simple camera without wide angle, just a simple camera that does not straighten any lines, it's just pointing towards a certain direction. You know, you have digital cameras that do nothing but that. They do not curve any lines, right? Why do they not just use iPhone cameras, or they attach an iPhone there, right? It does not curve any lines. Then you would have an actual proof. But of course they're using some wide angle lenses, and these videos then air on YouTube, and then people think, well, the curvature exists, I have seen the curvature, but they do not consider the fact that there is a wide angle lens in place behind what they are seeing. Okay, that's what's capturing the image, and there are certain laws again that wide angle lenses are curving lines, even though it might not be as drastically as fisheye lenses, but wide angle lenses do the same, and people have to be aware of this. And I also found images or parts of images where this line, the horizon line, is perfectly straight. But then again, you have to say, okay, you can't really say that it's perfectly straight because it's at the edge of the frame, for example. There is also the wide angle in place, and so you can't argue neither for flat earth nor for the ball. And the footage is basically useless. Okay? But people will make it a point that the earth is a ball because they have seen a curvature in this video. That's what I'm trying to say. And do not fall for this trap. Okay? Just say, why do they not use a normal camera that does not curve lines and show this kind of footage? Do the same experiment, right? Why is it not happening? And if you do the maths, you know that at this point there must be a curvature visible. Okay? If we live on a ball, you know, we turn it around. We assume we live on a ball, we do the maths, and we look at the curvature rate, and we calculate from one edge to the other edge of this camera frame when we look at the horizon line, and we want to know, okay, how far is this distance? Okay, from left to right. What is the horizon line covering? What we're seeing is a certain amount of the circumference of Earth, and you can take this information and then calculate things, right? The curvature rate and how much you're actually seeing. If you have 90 degrees of wide angle, then you are supposed to see 1067 kilometers. Okay, if you have a 90-degree angle, you see 1067 kilometers of this horizon line. It comes down to 15 degrees of this circumference, and when you put the numbers in, then you can calculate but I do not have the data, as I told you at the start. I do not have the data on the actual angle of the camera. So 90 degrees is just an assumption. It could be actually more. It could be 100 degrees or 120 degrees, and then you would even cover more distance, like, let's say 1,500 kilometers. And then it drastically also affects how much we get to see of such a supposed curvature. Okay, if we assume the Earth is a ball and we do the maths. And on the other hand, I mean, if they would use a normal camera, then we know that at this height of 90 kilometers, according to the maths, according to the theory of a ball, there must be a curvature. Okay? But if they would use a normal camera and the camera would still show a straight line, then we would all know, obviously, that we're dealing with a flat Earth and not a ball, and it would completely debunk the ball, because through the calculations and the theory of the ball, there must be a curve, visible. These are just calculations that you can make based upon assuming that the Earth is a ball. So we know at this distance there should be a curvature visible if it's true, with a normal camera. But they are not using a normal camera, so we cannot make any of these conclusions. We can neither say, okay, we see a curvature even with a normal camera, that's why the Earth is a ball. We can neither say, okay, we don't see a curvature with a normal camera that does not curve any distant lines. And that would be the proof, obviously, that Earth is flat. Okay, and it's not a ball, because again, at 90 kilometers height, you should be able to see a curvature according to the maths. And the thing is, what's going on here with this footage is that the maths says there must be a curvature, and the footage shows that there is a curvature. Then people must be aware that the footage is taken with a wide-angle lens camera that is curving lines, distant lines such as horizon lines. So you cannot actually say for sure. That's why the Earth is a ball, because they are not using a normal camera. For whatever reasons, at ground level horizon it also curves the horizon lines. So if it curves horizon lines at the ground level and it still curves horizon lines at 90 kilometers height, altitude, then you know that you're being fooled, right? Then you know, okay, you only see a curve because of this wide-angle lens camera. So my question is, why do they not just use a freaking normal camera, just attach an iPhone to, or whatever phone, you know, or some digital camera, just attach that to this rocket and shoot it into the air. But I mean, I don't have the possibilities to do that. Maybe you do, I don't. But the ones that have the possibility to do that, for some reason they don't do this. And I wonder why. So again, the conclusion here is that you cannot make any conclusions from this. So it may be better to stick with water levels or if you find some investor that can, or some rocket builders that can do the same thing, then try to get a normal camera up there, you know. And only then you would have an actual proof. But this cannot be used as a proof in both ways. Neither ball nor flat Earth. And also don't be fooled that it's not NASA footage, you know. they put this there, you know, and they put it there like too prideful about this, right? And people fall for this thing, right? They say, oh, it's not NASA, so it must be true. So when they have wide angle lens cameras, it's so different, or what? It's just the same, okay? They are both using these wide angle lens cameras that from which you cannot make any conclusions. The only conclusion that you can make is, okay, we're still seeing the horizon line at basically camera level or eye level, but it's not the eye, obviously it's the camera that is pointing towards the horizon. And you could see that horizon line is still matching if the camera is stable and stands still and is, I mean, also you cannot make really conclusions on that one because the rocket is not stable, it's wobbling in the air, in the sky, and the camera is all over the place, pointing all over the place, so you cannot really make out or conclude anything